let's take them back to Nigeria and let's teach them a different kind of job.
Every day I sit on the seat, I sit with very cheery mind and a lot of times too very cheery face. That is because each time I sit here, I sit with another lovely lady. Now, when I say lovely, it is not just by their physical looks. It is by their achievements, by their inner being. And the lady today just said something that got me thinking. But I will get to introduce my guest today. The program is The Woman, and my name is Elizabeth. Let's take some time out, come back and meet my special guest today.
Have you ever wondered why some men cannot finish using the towel and just hang it back somewhere in the bathroom? Why would they have to throw it on the bed? Little things like that. They're put off.
Have you ever wondered why a grown man with a wife and kids will go to the toilet, the lavatory, to ease himself, to do number one, to pee, right? He takes the seat up. He flips out that thing. The moment he starts peeing, he flushes the toilet, right? The toilet does its own bit. The flushing is done before the pee is done. And 10 liters of water is wasted. The pee is still there.
Oh my goodness.
He doesn't put the seat back down. He doesn't reflush. He doesn't wash his hands. He walks away.
That's why I don't like shaking men, by the way.
There's a particular thing we know many men to be very, very guilty of, and that's throwing their shoes and stockings all over. Maybe men are going to be better, not throwing it around, but they can there's just some that have those smelly feet and keep it for you in the living room. Women don't like it.
You're right on time because I'm about to unveil the lady I say is beautiful inside out, and for her the inner beauty is much more than the outer beauty, and it depends on how you feel about yourself too. Now, this lady is not just beauty personified. She is a medical practitioner, that's a medical doctor, and a medical doctor who's achieved so much. I will get to unwrap all of that, but let's say take a little bit. She is the founding president, Widows Development Organization, WIDO, and she's also the founding zonal coordinator of Coalition on Violence Against Women. She's the founding director of Tabitha Infirmary Foundation. Very importantly to me today, I want to celebrate her just like Mr. President did. She is the first African president for Female Medical Doctors International. Join me as I welcome Dr. Eleanor Ann. Thanks for joining us.
Delighted.
It's my pleasure. I remember, maybe I should just go straight on and read a little bit of what Mr. President actually wrote about you. It was my pleasure to receive Dr. Eleanor Ann at the State House today. She is the first Nigerian elected president of the Medical Women's International Association in its 100 years of existence. Her great achievement should make all of us proud as Nigerian. And of course, you replied in your Twitter handle, I am truly humbled, Mr. President, and will continue to make Nigeria proud by the grace of God. Thank you for that. But I want you to tell me, how did it feel when you were called, to take this, assume this position?
I was just overwhelmed with joy unspeakable, and truly humbled, because it's just the grace of God, absolute grace of God.
The question some would, possibly ask, what is in there for Nigeria? What is in there for the medical practitioners? What is in there for the female doctors, especially Nigerian female doctors?
There is a lot in there. First of all, for humanity. And then for the constituency of doctors, physicians. Then especially for female doctors, for Nigeria, and for myself. Why do I say that? You see, the Women's International existence in 1919. Do you know, Elizabeth, it's the longest existing medical association in the world.
Wow.
It even predates the World Medical Association. How did that happen? It was a time when there were very, very few female medical doctors. And these medical doctors found themselves in an environment where they were few of them, they were marginalized. Infrastructure was not even designed to accommodate them. You're looking at a female doctor who was probably a surgeon and desperately looking for a bathroom where she could have privacy as a female doctor.
Wow.
So the infrastructure was not designed for them, and the whole way in which even the field of medicine was designed was not accommodating. So they felt that the few of them that existed needed to come together to form this association. And therefore, this association has as one of its key objectives to make sure that female physicians have equal rights within the profession, but that outwardly that they impact their communities. And that's exactly what we're doing around the world. That's why you find in the context of the times in which we are living now, the Medical Women's International Association was one of the first to put out a clarion call to rally the troops, to rally frontline medical workers.
Interesting. Now, a whole lot of things have been tagged to your name. Hashtag, widowhood practices. Hashtag, women violated, and stuff like that. I like that because we must speak out. A lot of people would make their name, probably make the money and go quietly to enjoy it. But you're here speaking out loud. Now, do you think with the number of years your organization has spanned, what do you think is the problem against women? Why do we still repeatedly have this violence against women? Is it our fault? What's the problem?
Situation, it's actually hydra-headed. You have situations emanating from culture. You have situations emanating from the way people are raised. Then you just have people who are sick, and you also have the lack of response by government and society. So let's start from culture. When you said it could be hashtag widowhood, it could be all of this. The things that I have had the privilege of embarking on, women's rights are human rights. When you look at humanity, you do have men and you have women, and we are all living and breathing the same air. But sadly, we have half of the population being treated differently. Some cultures, from the minute a child is born, and she's born a girl, she's born disadvantaged. And you begin to think, but why is that? As humans, we all have needs. But then the culture and the way the child is socialized, sometimes by the parents. So, for example, she's forced to do the household chores, and the boy is encouraged, to achieve his highest potential. But then there are cultures that have recognized that, human beings, every human being, should have the opportunity to achieve their potential, boy or girl? Why not send the girl child to school? Why marry her off early? Why not let her inherit the property? Why abuse the girl child? Why, violate her, whether it's physically, emotionally?
The more you talk, the more you take me, back to, very deep thoughts that I have. One of them is the recent issue that has been spoken in different fora. That's the rape. And for me, I'm beginning to think the more we talk about it, the more it looks like we're pouring more like a fuel on a burning coal. I don't know what other narrative can we adopt, to help mitigate against this. What can we do to save the girl child? What can we do to even save the boy child? Some of them are also raped, and particularly, I'd like to know, as a medical practitioner, when a girl child is raped, what does it mean medically?
Yeah, I think that you see, it's a subject matter that really makes me intensely angry. Every day now there's a report. Two things are happening. Two broad things are happening. Not only do we have increased incidents, but we have increased reporting. And in order for people to report, it could mean that people are becoming more aware. It also could mean that communication is improving. So I need to, first of all, applaud the media. You will find now that our media houses are speaking up and speaking out. Those who are violated have an incentive to report because they can see that increasingly perpetrators are being named and shamed, and they are seeing that perpetrators are being brought to book, that there's a public outcry, that protests are happening. But unless and until, as a people, the whole of government, the whole of society makes a demand for one, zero tolerance, and then to take the issue head on. We have called, those of us who are activists, have called for a declaration on a state of emergency. You deploy every resource possible, personnel, funding, enabling environment, training, and that training must include the training of the responders. You asked a question, what does it mean for somebody in the medical world? It means that I and my colleagues must recognize violence. If she walks into the consulting room and says that she fell down the stairs, as opposed to saying that her husband pushed her or hit her with a rod, we need to be able to pick that up. And it requires training.
Yes.
If the case goes to a judge or a magistrate, the judge or the magistrate needs to be able to pick that up, and it requires training.
Yes.
If the survivor or the victim who has suffered sexual violence goes to the police needs to be able to pick that up immediately and respond appropriately, as opposed to further victimizing the victim by asking her what she was wearing, or why she was wearing what she was wearing, or why she was out late at night.
We must all put all hands on deck to ensure that this does not happen. We must not cover criminals. We must not cover rapists because they are as good as murderers. That's me speaking. Now, as the president of the Female Medical Practitioners Internationally speaking, I don't know, you have set goals, and what is the roadmap to achieve those goals?
As the president of the Medical Women's International Association, we have goals that are inward facing and those that are outward facing. What do I mean by that? We have goals to ensure that our members, our female physicians, have the best opportunities within the profession. Because what you will find is that unlike 100 years ago, in 1919 when we were formed, we now have a lot more female physicians. So the profession is not the exclusive preserve of our male colleagues. But what you will find, and it's very, very glaring, is the fact that at the entry level, we have high numbers, but then when you look along the timeline and you look at decision-making positions, so you might go to an institution and discover that the chief medical director is more likely to be a man, or the head of the medical college is more likely to be a man. So we want, what it is a reflection of the inequalities, the gender inequality that you have more broadly. So you have fewer women in decision-making processes and positions, and that is also reflected in our medical constituency. So the Medical Women's International Association is looking inwards. We are ensuring that there's mentoring. We are also ensuring that things like best practices, lessons learned, and we are advocating and supporting colleagues to vie for positions for as long as they are qualified. We are speaking up on behalf of our colleagues to be in those decision-making positions. We are mentoring the younger ones. We have an exceptional mentoring system. And that is what is mirrored in our over 90 member associations. And in Nigeria, I'm happy to say we have 33 state branches and counting, and working frantically to make sure that we have our 36 and FCT. So that is inward. Now, outward facing, our roadmap is such that because we are advocating for the best for women's global health, you find that there are priority issues. So whereas, for example, on the African continent, the issues are around maternal mortality, you don't find such issues in Europe. So where there are issues of mental health or issues of violence against women and girls, so we have our committees and special interest groups that deal with nation-specific
That's interesting.
priority issues.
We can't be all women without playing other roles. I mean, you've done well with your medical practice. You've also done well with a whole lot of things. I tried to cram all of it, but I just couldn't. There's a whole 3 or 4 pages of what you are and what you work at, even as we speak, all in front of me here. But what bothers me, and I want to ask, you're a mother and you're a grandmother, and your story consistently tells me you're always present. How do you do it?
I'm not a clinician. I'm a development practitioner, I used to practice as an anesthetist. I'm no longer a clinician and doing development work, and that means that, I've done research work. So, for example, I've looked at issues around children and child's rights with UNICEF. I've worked with, UNIFEM. So I'm doing more of development now. Elizabeth, I am still on a learning curve. When it comes to work-life balance, I still haven't gotten that perfect balance. I see others who, it's like they have several plates spinning and they're doing it
Perfectly.
I have to still learn, still trying to work the best, give my family the best, and then, the other things that are priority for me. I'm a woman of faith, so, giving my faith constituency the best. So I'm definitely still on that learning curve. But, life is about choices. And for me, family always comes first. Always.
And the choices we make are very important. And I like the fact that with what we think you represent and what we know you represent, you're still learning. I mean, it's the greatest news for me today because there's no end to what we can achieve if we open our horizon, open our inner minds. We get to learn more each day. The day you feel you have learned all of it, that day you begin to die. When you're exhausted, when you think you can't cope, how do you rejuvenate? I mean, you said you're overwhelmed by trying to get all, ends put together. How do you rejuvenate? Because you don't look stressed.
Oh, I absolutely rejuvenate through the Word of God. It's so refreshing. Listening to music. I love gospel music and I love dancing. So, sometimes when I'm down, I cry. I'm entitled to cry. But after crying, I look for that music and I really dance. And I love to just have some me time. And me time means a nice long soak in the bath and, pampering, a good massage.
Beautiful.
And then you're ready to face the day.
Beautiful. Okay, what can I say? But I'm just wondering, you're so soft-spoken. I'm wondering, were you ever able to scold your children? How do you do it? Okay, I can practice, and let's say one of your children's name is Elizabeth, and if it's typically Elizabeth, there's a problem always. She would have broken one glass, and you come to the kitchen, and people like me will say, why did you break that? You're so soft-spoken. Do you scold them?
Not at all. For every situation, you must address it appropriately. I gave them a hard time growing up. Then they will add, but now looking back, they are grateful for it.
Yes.
When I was an anesthetist, and I needed to talk to my patient who I was about to put, to give anesthesia for their operation, then I would use my soft coaxing voice, even as I gave them the injection or I put the face mask over their face and they would go to sleep. But as they were waking up, I would raise my voice. And I would say, time to wake up now. So you see, there's a tone and a volume that's appropriate for every occasion.
It's okay. I'm not sure I want to take anesthesia from anybody, but if I'm going to have to do one, I'll look for the likes of you who will cuddle me to sleep. And then I like the tone of your voice when you say it's time to wake up, because even with that, I'll sleep more. Thank you so much for coming on the show. All right. Thank you so much. We'll keep a tab on you and ensure that Delhi, continue to fly our flags, real high, the flags of the woman, the flags of all
Amen.
Nigerian and African women. Thank you for doing the wonderful job you're doing. All right.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you too. We've been speaking with Dr. Eleanor Ann, and it's been quite enlightening. She's not just the professional woman, she's also the professional, what do I call them? Domestic engineer. That's at home, the housewife and the mother. And she's extended her hands far beyond that to charity. We should learn from her rope. And like she said, she's still learning, so we too continue to learn. I'll see you again next week with another exciting personality. My name again is Elizabeth Abai.
Anybody who is exposed